Hey guys, so the drawing on the computer didn't record. It was recording for like a full half hour, and then it suddenly said it cannot record. I think because I don't have the space on my computer, so it cut out, and so there's no visual component to this episode. Um, but I talked a lot more in this one than I did in the other one, so if you want, it's kind of like it could be like a podcast kind of episode. I really didn't make any progress in drawing. I drew on the wrong layer like 4 times, and then the drawing that I did do, it was mostly just like retouching, and then I started on the hair a little bit, but you'll see that when I start the next one. I didn't go for too long. But yeah, this will be like a podcasty type of episode. Probably call it like Joe doesn't draw. um, and yeah, I don't feel like going crazy trying to edit it again. I just figure I'll just put it out as is, and if you want to listen, you can. If not, then you can just wait till the next episode. So anyway, yeah. So on with the video. Down from the heavens bearing the gift, it's Jometheus, and welcome back to Drawing This Thing with Joe. So I'm pulling up right back where I left off, where I was drawing her. I noticed when I was looking back and editing that other video, that I didn't really say much of anything. Like I mentioned, like, I listed off a bunch of names of shows that I watched, and then I didn't really say anything else. So I kind of wanted to start this one out just by getting that out of the way, just so I'm not like, oh, this popped into my head, and this popped into my head, and this popped into my head. So I'm going to list off a list of shows. This is just shows, because I watched, like, way, way, way more. So if you hear a show, or don't hear a show that you watched growing up, don't get upset and was like, you didn't watch that, or you didn't like that, or it's either I never watched it, I liked it, or I didn't like it. But if I liked it and I didn't mention it here, it's probably just because these shows are the ones that I feel like influenced my both sense of humor, my art style, and how I think of like characters and stuff like that. So there's a lot of shows that I really really liked, like Recess and like Jimmy Neutron, things like that. It's I like the show a lot. It's just I don't feel like, to me, it's considered like inspirational or something like that. So I wrote down my list. I'm just gonna write that out and then or talk that out, and then I'm gonna get started on this. Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Samurai Jack, Codename Kids Next Door, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Steven Universe, Batman the Animated Series, Looney Tunes, Toonheads, Tom and Jerry, Invader Zim, SpongeBob SquarePants, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's probably a lot of others. That's just, I went down like a list of like shows from Cartoon Network and just read out stuff, but those are the ones that I consider to be like something that was influential to me. Like either in the humor, like Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, definitely Billy and Mandy and SpongeBob were two really huge ones, I think, for developing my sense of humor. As far as like art goes, I think My Life as a Teenage Robot, I don't really remember too much about the actual show. Like, I remember the basic general plot, but I don't really remember too much of the characters. But I really, really always loved the art style of that, and I feel like that's partially influenced the way that I like to draw and the way that I like to think. Powerpuff Girls, big one for that. But Powerpuff Girls, I feel like, is influential for a lot of stuff. Like, I love the way they do character. I love the way that the humor is, and I love the designs on everything. Same thing with Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, because that was also another Craig McCracken thing. Same creator of that, and he did it with Lauren Faust, who also went on to do My Little Pony, but that's a whole other thing. So those are my big ones. I just wanted to get that out of the way, just to say, and then get started on this. What was I gonna say? Now, as far as, let's see, specifics go, I'd say, I'm gonna give her some more color because I feel like she's pretty, like one tone. Like with that's wobbling a lot. I think my biggest, because my favorite show growing up, and I looking back at it now, I think it's because the humor, the animation, and the music really like cemented it for me. Is I can't even think of the name. Ed and Eddie. It's got this very like weird jazzy style to it, like both, and the music is also helps into that. But just like with the animation, even just like the way that everything moves is so like over the top, and it's got like it's very jerky. Like even with standing still, it's got this weird signature thing to it, where it's standing still, but it's like shuddery effect to it, and it makes it look more hand drawn than, I mean, well, it was hand drawn, but they had studios involved in it. But I didn't think of it in terms of like a career for a little while. The first thing that I was thinking of as a career was actually because I also used to read a lot of comics. I also mentioned this in the last video, but I read a lot of like comic strips, like from the newspaper. Big ones I read were Foxtrot. Which I love the humor, and then the way that how into their family that they get into that. This, you get a good glimpse into their lives. It's like actually has continuity pretty consistently. Garfield, I think, specifically for the humor, and people probably find that weird, that Garfield, just because Garfield is considered like a joke to a lot of people. That is like, oh, it's really not very funny. But he had some, Jim Davis had some good runs of strips in there, and there's a reason that it got as big as he did, even if maybe it doesn't hold up as much today. Yeah, and then what was I gonna say? But Far Side really, 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 I think influenced my humor. It's why I have like such a weird, like kind of almost dad sense of humor, because I feel like he was a comedic genius. Or is he alive? I don't know if he's alive. I know he doesn't do Far Side anymore, but he might. He may or may not be dead. I should probably look that up. I'll put a note at the bottom of this video, like under here, to see if he is or not. But I don't know offhand. Oh no, I didn't do any of this on the right layer. Oh, you shitting me. Oh well. Oh well. Let me just do this then. Well, I wasn't crazy about the way it was looking anyway. Let's see. I still want to add color, but what direction should I go in this? Well, still. But yeah, I feel like definitely it was a big one with Ed and Eddie. Like I remember even this is kind of weird, but they put out a video game of it, of the Misadventures, I think. And I didn't have I wanted the PS2 version, or the whatever it came out on, because I never played it, but I've seen things from it since then, and I like the way that's set up. But I had the Game Boy version of it for my Game Boy Advance, and it came with, weirdly enough, a DVD with, and I haven't been able to find this exact thing since. Like I found like a couple clips from it, but I haven't been able to see the whole thing in its entirety. It came with a DVD with interviews with the whole cast and Danny Antonucci, the creator, and everything. I did this on the same fucking layer? Are you serious? I'm sorry if everybody's yelling at me right now. Oh, I'm distracting myself. But had interviews with all the creators, and that was what made me get into the idea of maybe having that as a career, as animation, because I don't think I would really thought about that before. What I had thought about, because I was, what I was talking about before with the comic strips, I wanted to be not like make cartoons for a living, because I was like, oh, that'd be too much work, because I didn't think about the fact that there's entire like studios and a lot of people into it. But I wanted to be a cartoonist, like to make like comic strips for newspapers, like a daily like syndicated series. But even I didn't think about that's even more work, because then you gotta, I mean, you're only making like 3 or 4 panels, but you gotta come up with content consistently every single day and deliver for newspapers, for them to pick that up. So that, I don't know what I was thinking with that. This is looking patchy as hell. What am I doing here? But yeah, so I used to have like notebooks that I drew like comics and stuff in. Like, and they were like, didn't really make any sense, and like someone went like really over dramatic. But yeah, it was a big thing for me. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do with my life. And then I was like, when I was way young though. I want to say like, when was I thinking that? Maybe like 8 or 9. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do with my life. I'm gonna be a syndicated comic strip cartoonist and make like weekly newspaper strips, which is weird to think of now. It's kind of come full circle, because I want to do comics, just not those types of comics. I want to do like comic books, because I never, weirdly enough, I watched like Batman the Animated Series, and I loved superheroes as a kid, but it never like connected to me to say like I could make well, I guess that's not true. I did have my own like superhero things going on as a kid. They just weren't like fully realized. I made with my friend, I made superheroes that were like not really superheroes so much. It was just like, it was a shape. It was like, mine was like, he had a trapezoid body, but he was a stick figure, and he had a box body. And this is Super Bob and Super Larry. No affiliation with VeggieTales. We didn't realize that those are the names of those characters until later on. It just happened out that way because it was such a simple name. And I did a lot of stuff with that. And then yeah, I did a lot of stuff like that before I gave up on that idea. Before I realized that that's kind of a lot to do. That's a lot of big commitment. Let's see. I think the other big one, like SpongeBob. I mean, if you watch SpongeBob, it still holds up like all the jokes today. I'd say it's still the most quoted show. Like literally, I mean, it permeates the humor so much that like memes, which are the big thing now, like they never really used to exist before. Well, I mean, they existed, just not in this big form and not in this like copy paste. Literally, everybody's doing it kind of thing. And not obviously with the internet, that was big. groundbreaking thing. But what am I trying to say? Most of the new things that come out, it's like when the big meme that starts going around, a lot of them are SpongeBob because it's something that everybody watched growing up. And if you're, well, I mean, it's showing my age, and it's what we watched growing up in my age group. From if you, like, I'd say maybe, well, because it's still going today, I guess. But I'm talking like early 2000s SpongeBob. I'd say maybe if you were born starting 1995 and past that, it's everywhere. Like, everybody knows all the little things, and if you make a SpongeBob reference, like, chances are people are gonna get it. It was a very, very influential show. My favorite movie growing up was Toy Story. I could literally, I've thought about it, doing it a few times. I kind of want to keep it a secret, but also I don't know if I'll ever actually sit down and do it. But I want to do a commentary track for Toy Story, but I don't want to do a commentary track because I know that movie so well. I could literally, like, sit down and just, like, do all the audio myself with the audio turned off. I could, like, play out the whole movie by myself because I know it so well. And I've thought about it on occasion that I actually might want to do that. Because I feel like that'd make an interesting thing to watch, if nothing else. So yeah, I've thought about that actually legitimately before. And I still might, honestly. Let's see. I feel like this is like one side seems like more than the other, and also might be because of the angle. But the eyes, let me see. It seems like kind of uneven. Let me see. What's up there? Where was I? This is what happened last time, except I wasn't very prepared to say anything last time, so I just kind of was literally just listing shit. I want this one to actually be kind of informative. Let's see. The cartoons were the only thing that influenced my sense of humor, and I definitely watched more than just that. I watched a lot of like I read a lot of is that on there, or is that, well, I guess I can fix it later. I read a lot of Captain Underpants growing up, and besides the comics and Nickelodeon magazine and that kind of thing, I watched like TV shows too, like live action stuff, like Drake and Josh. Was a big thing with the humor, obviously, because I feel like if anybody knows, like, Dan Schneider and that whole Schneiderverse kind of thing, they all have that kind of same sort of weird sense of humor that's kind of like, oh, so random, oh, like iCarly and stuff like that. Is more so. I think the worst offenders of it are like I think like Victorious, or what's the other one, like I don't know, but they have this weird, like, lack of balance between the humor and the actual plot. I think the one that does it the best was Drake and Josh, because they had, like, ridiculous kind of humor, but the way that they built, like, the stupid things, like the obvious, like, Game Spear's a joke on, like, Xbox is like, oh, it's a GameCube, it's a Game Spear, it's an Xbox, it's a Game Spear, it's spherical. It's not a box, it's a sphere. Isn't that crazy? Um, it's balanced with like the way that they talk about things, the way that they react to things. I think is more. It's believable, you know. Um, Probably biggest influence is a number of Pixar movies, including, like I said, Toy Story. Um, I was very, very big into those growing up, and I think it's very much shown in my interest in. Obviously, I haven't put anything out yet, but the way that I write characters, very much influenced by that. My love for world building, I would say, is probably most influenced by Codename Kids Next Door. The way that they do it is crazy. Like, the way that their universe seems so big and, like, it's stupid, but it's, like, they take it somewhat really seriously in a weird way. And they go really intense with it. I think that, and I mentioned Invader Zim. I'd say that's probably tonally, not that I'd capture that tone, but just the way that that whole world has that weird, like, dark tone to it. That I feel like that was influential in a way that you can make your in a different way than just like, because you get that in with like Powerpuff Girls and like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. The way that they build the world, it makes a lot of sense. That you feel like the world itself is kind of like a character that works with the part of it. Avatar: The Last Airbender, that was kind of later, but very, very much influential. I didn't watch it so much while it was airing, but I absolutely have watched it since. Let's see. My brush isn't that big. Why is it? Why does it seem like it's not doing right? But that was a big thing for a while, and then what ended up happening was I got very into animation as an idea, and I was like, well, I could be an animator, and I very, very, like, because of Pixar and everything, I have very deep love for animation, like going back and watching old Looney Tunes, old like Popeye cartoons, and like Max Fleischer and Tom, was it Chuck Jones, um, old like Tom and Jerry, like things like that. Very, very, like, the way that the comedic timing works so well on those because of the animation that's put into it. Like, obviously there's writing involved in that too. Like, it doesn't come from nowhere, the ideas, but just the way that they execute it is just so perfectly done, just through the use of animation techniques. And I just became so fascinated with that, especially, and also with Pixar. Like, I was always like thinking that I could go more into traditional 2D animation, hand-drawn, just because that's something I was more familiar with. I felt like I don't have to learn special technology to make that, or if anything, if I was ever to work in that situation, I could just be like a character designer, because you can design characters like 2D, and then they can translate that into like a 3D space later on. Let's see the way that's coming together. Let me see if I can normal that out, because that's looking like a scar or something there. So yeah, that was the next big thing, I think, for me, was I wanted to be an animator. and I got so immersed into like voice acting idea, or like voice actors and IMDb, and like seeing, oh, this is that person, it's that person. And I love movies and did the same thing with that. And I was trying to figure out, like, in different animated things, like, oh, that's this person, I can pick out this person, and I still have that love for it. I would say only thing that's probably changed so much is my direction on it. I would love to work in that industry still, but I cannot be an animator. I've tried my hand at animation. I have a couple very small things that I made, but it takes so much time, even when you're not doing that much. And I feel like I know myself, and I know I wouldn't have the patience to sit down and do that on a regular basis. Just realistically knowing myself. Not to say that I don't have great appreciation for it. I know I wouldn't be able to keep up with that lifestyle. I don't have the patience to sit down and make like all that kind of thing. And not to say, because I know I'm like kind of sounds kind of stupid, because I'm kind of doing that right now, sitting down and taking a couple hours at a time on a project. But just I know it's so much work, and I have a lot of respect for animators and people who do that, but I can't do that. I like to put lots of love and care into very specific things, like that's why I do like singular projects like this. I spend a lot of time putting as much detail and stuff as I can into things. I'm kind of a little bit of a perfectionist that way. So I want things to be as best as I can, and I feel like in animation, if you do that, you're going to end up in situations like Harry Partridge, where you only put something out once every like few years or something like that, and it's not like, or if you're working with like a big studio, you're not going to be able to do like passionate things or things that you're passionate about. I mean, it's not to say that I would never want to work with a studio. I want to do more than just be animator 618 on this one scene or something like that. And I also know that I wouldn't be able to do like deadlines and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of shifted my focus a little bit. I still want to get into that industry. I feel like I would be better suited to do like character designs or something like that. And my big focus right now has been I want to do comics specifically, and just kind of come full circle, like I was saying before. Like I started out wanting to do comics, and I've kind of come all the way back to that. It's a series that I've been working on that I'm hoping one day will be my crowning achievement. It started out as a story just of two firefighter brothers. It was very stereotypic, very stupid, like cliched. One was named the firefighter brother, and one was had like fire powers. One had ice powers. One was named Ash, and I don't even remember the name of the ice one, but it was just very, very early on ideas. But what that ended up evolving into, and those characters are completely gone at this point. Like I don't even remember how the progression happened, but I ended up transitioning to this like police force of sorts, and I did the initial designs on them. I gave them this kind of weird, like futuristic, retro futuristic vibe, um, and ended up, I don't know, I'm not sure where I got the name from, but I remember playing around for a little bit, with like acronyms and stuff, and what I settled on is the Bolts of Lightning City. Is it's a police force. Is and they would just follow those adventures of the police force, and I had this character that I created. Um, he's changed a lot throughout the years, but he's the only character I've kept the same. This is about 2013. I started this, and I've just been working on it since. This is my character Grant. Grant Miller. He's named after two comic book, because that was after I had actually gotten into superhero comics. He's named after two famous comic book writers, who famously worked on Batman. Grant for Grant Morrison, and Miller for oh God, can't think of it for some reason. He wrote the Dark Knight Returns. Man, I can't think of his name. I really can't think of his name. But is named for those two writers, both of which I think have done very interesting, influential things with the character and other characters as well. And I came up with this other character, Isaac. He's I don't think his name was Isaac at first, but it's he has wings, and I remember I one of the earliest things I did, and I still have it. And it's kind of embarrassing, but if I ever get into it, I'll probably put that out at some point. There's a recording on my phone I did of just dialogue of him. He's Scottish, so I did this just like bad Scottish accent for it. Of just him and trying to build his character, kind of make him more. He's kind of snarky, like Grant's kind of more serious. Isaac's kind of snarky. He's got like kind of a Spider-Man vibe to him because he's a vigilante. He's got wings, and he's more of a loose cannon kind of. I know that's a kind of stereotype anyway, but he's a vigilante, so he's got his own kind of thing going on. And then I should probably go over, not under. Let me fix that. Yeah, he's a vigilante. He's got his own kind of thing going on, and I did like a voice track of it. It's just kind of stupid quality, but those are my two main guys. That's who I've been drawing. The story's changed a lot. Used to be. They were a lot more closely tied together, and they just they were working together from the start. And there's just like a superhero that the city respected and all that, and the story has just completely changed since then. Definitely influenced a lot by like the Incredibles and things like that. But yeah, that's my big thing that I'm working on right now. But in general, just I love drawing characters, and I always have, and just I'd like to do more with it because I love like character building and things like that in my head. And I love drawing characters, but I want to be able to bridge them together and think of a way to make characters look the way that they are. And you can just look at them right away and tell that this person is this. And that's just how they are. Like, you can just tell right away what kind of person they're going to be before you've ever heard them say a single line of dialogue. Because I know a lot of designers who can do that. And sometimes you want a design that's gonna like subvert expectations, but I think like Craig McCracken did that really well with Powerpuff Girls, where you see, oh, it's these three. They're weird looking, but they're three just smiley little cute little girls, and they're just crazy, super powerful, kick-ass heroes, but they are also little girls. And I think just his design on that, it's very simple, but it's like you get that right away just by looking at them. You can tell what it is that they're supposed to be, mostly by like what they're doing when you see them, but you get it. It's just something that like you see it and it makes sense like right away. I want to be able to do things with characters like that. Like I didn't have thought for this character when I first started doing it. But what was I gonna say? I didn't have any thoughts on this character when I first started doing it. But as I started going along, I, for some reason, just the pose that I put her in, I was just like, she seems like she'd be like a mechanic, so I'm just making her a mechanic. I haven't gotten to the finer details and the like polish and everything yet. I'm gonna add probably like, I don't know, like grease stains and stuff like that, and maybe like some like an oil smudge on her face or something like that. Just a little bit something to add character, but yeah, I want to be able to do that pretty instantly, and I want to eventually be able to figure out how to do that more effectively. Let me see, what else can I talk about? Sorry, I didn't plan too much. I kind of already exhausted where. Uh-oh. Well, I guess that's kind of good timing. My computer ran out of space for video, so I gotta just take what I did there, and I guess I'm gonna do more in the next one. I guess I didn't do much drawing, but I did a lot of talking in this one, so hopefully it kind of balances out. Not really, but but anyway, I guess yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, and thanks for watching, thanks for listening to my spiel, and see you later, bye.